Hello and welcome to the Young Film Academy podcast, the essential podcast for teenagers looking to find their way into the creative industries. I am joined this week by James Walker. Hello.
Hey Dan.
How's it going?
I'm good.
Yeah, been busying yourself? Been doing anything creative recently? Been indulging in any sort of movies or things creative-y?
well, apart from creating a podcast.
Apart from creating a podcast, yeah.
Which has been pretty creative. Loads of good stuff going on. So a couple of projects, and been talking to some friends about their project, which is always interesting, learning from some of their experiences, which I always try and do.
Very nice, very cool. Yeah, it's always the sort of things are always like teetering. Do you know what I mean? They're always sort of like on the horizon. And sometimes you've got loads of things. Sometimes there's like one thing that you're just trying to like bullishly make happen. But I think it's always sort of, it feels healthier when you've got like a multitude. I don't know, me personally.
Yeah. You've got to be happy with things in flux. I think nothing will ever be set. It's always in flux.
Absolutely. And speaking about influx, we are exploring flux today, but not flux in like, you know, the word or what it means per se. We're talking about viral stuff. Whereas before things used to go out on TV at a set time and you sort of knew how many viewers it was going to get because you knew how many viewers the TV show got. Now we don't know how many viewers any advert's going to get because it goes out online and it might go viral. And that's sort of what we want to talk about, isn't it, James?
Yeah. And I think it's about short format as well. You know, so much of, you know, what we mean by viral, which is usually, as you say, content that's meant for online. It's kind of achievable because it's often literally 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds long. And at Young Film Academy, we often talk to young filmmakers about not trying to go off and shoot something that's half an hour. It's not easy to do. So I think hearing today, talking about viral content, hopefully is going to focus the minds on sort of what we can do in a really short format to have maximum impact, really punchy. Because I think that's what viral is, isn't it? I mean, what do you understand by viral? Like, what does that word mean to you?
Well, I feel like it's taken on a whole bonus meaning with COVID-19 and stuff, which is, I mean, it's literally that, isn't it? It's sort of something that spreads, and it spreads because it's a good idea or it's a good piece of content.
Yeah, good spread.
Yeah, it's a good kind of spread, you know, like butter, or vegan butter if you're vegan, but something that just sort of, you know, spreads itself out there, from person to person. So good content should, like a virus, spread online.
Yeah, and you need it, I suppose, to be impactful enough, you know, whether it's funny enough or scary enough or interesting enough that you want to share it, pass it on. Because that's like a virus, right? You know, you're trying to make people not just consume it, but actually action the passing on of it.
It's like its USP is the determinant for its like transmissibility, right? Is it
selling point,
which
USP.
means it's so funny that people are going to have to tell their mates, you know, something like that.
Yeah, totally.
It's a good metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think that, you know, it becomes really, hopefully for a lot of young listeners out there, that this is the kind of content that they will be consuming a lot of, because these are the sort of things you see as YouTube ads, right? You know, that kind of thing that before you watch a video on YouTube, you get a short ad, or it's the kind of thing that pops up on Facebook or whatever it is. And often we forget that has been designed and made, and teams of people have thought this stuff through meticulously. And it often, it might just be a picture of someone with a kite running past the frame and falling over. But it's not just someone just going out and doing that, you know, and sort of seeing how it goes. They've planned it, they've researched it, and there's so much effort and time and craft that goes into creating this kind of content.
Absolutely. And what we want to do, right, is peel back the layers. Like, what goes into the construction of one of these? Like, how do you make one? How does it get made? Who's behind it? And we're really excited this week to be joined by a director who works within this field. We've got Nathan Thays, who also teaches at Young Film Academy, and he directs these viral commercials. So, Nathan, director, producer, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Going good, very good. I am super happy and glad to be joining you guys. It's been ages. This is really cool. It's really cool that you guys are doing this.
It's very cool. For those that don't know, so Nathan, you've taught at Young Film Academy, right, before?
Yeah, I'm still teaching.
Still teaching, absolutely.
When I'm available. I love Young Film Academy, the Young Film Academy. I love the Young Film. You can cut that bit out. I love the Young Film Academy. I think you guys are doing really cool stuff. It's just like super professional stuff. I mean, I wish I was like, when I was 16 or 15, 14, and had access to a course or the courses that you guys offer. It's amazing. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to be on this podcast. Yeah,
amazing. Well, it's great to have you. It's great to have you to talk about viral content, which is super cool. So I wanted to start off just sort of go right out the cages. What does viral content mean to you?
Honestly, that is strange question. I guess viral content is like it just moves quick, doesn't it? Like once it goes live, it just goes. It's like wildfire. It goes everywhere. It can go everywhere. And I'm talking about online. It can be sent via email. It can be Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp. Like it can reach so many audiences than TV ever thought it would ever reach. So I think that's what viral content could possibly be.
Gotcha. And then so you work right for companies. What's sort of the arrangement there? Like how do you get involved, and then how do you sort of direct that to try and get it to go viral?
So at the moment, I'm working for an amazing advertising agency called McCann Erickson or McCann World Group, and there's a production team within that. So there's like loads of producers. I think they got like, I don't know, more than 1,000 producers around the world, which is super cool. And I get to produce content for various companies like L'Oreal, or I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to say that, but I just don't know the laws.
A very good hair brand.
It's
we'll just say that instead.
And just like really cool campaigns and the cool stuff that they do, and a lot of these campaigns are like just making like the things that they're doing are not just like come and buy our stuff. It's all about like meaningful things, which is really cool, and I like that. I like doing things that are more meaningful than just like let's do you come and buy my product. And that's what attracts me to what I do. And then from there,
Can you give an example of what you mean by like when you say meaningful content? Like what is that? Like what does that directive sound like? And how do you how do you begin to like make something meaningful?
So I think it's the type of organizations that the brands would want to associate themselves with. So, for example, you could work with an eco-friendly what do you call it? Sorry, I'm just losing my train of thought here.
Like detergenty company.
Yeah, so you could work with an eco-friendly charity, like let's say Microsoft works with an eco-friendly charity, and they kind of merge and they create a campaign together. And how does in terms of what electricity is going to be used, how they're going to use that, what type of who's going to benefit with the products that they're going to be selling. So, for example, is it a naturist? Is that the right one? Because you get the naturalist and the naturist. I was confused the two.
I think the naturist is naked.
Yeah, so it's the naturalist. So we did a campaign with like a naturalist up in up in the south of France.
And for the record, they did have clothes on.
They did have clothes on. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And
that is viral content. If they didn't, basically, if they didn't have clothes on, that is instant
maybe
viral.
you were missing a trick. You could have like the boundary, like it's like a BTS type viral content where they're having to make a phone call and they've got to they hire the wrong type of person, and they turn up and they're like, what we
that'll probably I'll probably be that person, the producer. Yeah. So it's those type of things, and I like doing those type of projects that are kind of meaningful projects. And I did a really cool project for Nurofen.
That's cool.
Basically so let me get my head around this. So we're working with scientists, and we had a scientist, and we also had a musician, and this musician came up with this. Basically, they took information from people who suffered with migraines, and they took all these like analysis, and they took that and they put it into like some type of system, and then created a score, a song, and that score then kind of helped reduce the pain that these guys were feeling or having.
What?
So it's called Pain Labs. You can actually see it online. I think it's the way. For me, I think it's companies are being more truthful now to what they can bring to society, and I think that for me it's just so real, and it makes me feel good about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And when I come to work, like when I walk into, my virtual office, or when I walk into the actual studio when we're going to be filming or whatever we're doing, it just feels good. I'm also working with now with sort of elevating women of color, and also women in science as well. I did something with a dame. I can't mention her name because this thing is not out yet. But it's just these type of things which I feel good about the content that I'm making, and also the work that I'm producing, basically.
Yeah, I suppose, like, do you are there ever any like brands? It's like some kind of oil company or something that's like just had like a humongous leak when they're like, it's like everything's sort of on eggshells, I suppose. But generally, by the sounds of it, you're getting to work with really, really cool brands that have good messages and stuff like that.
Is that a choice for you? Can you pick and choose?
To a certain extent, but I think in general, the company that I work with, it's their ultimate choice of the type of companies that they want to work with. I think they do a lot of research before they actually accept those contracts as well, because I think it's a two-way thing with them. I think they do reject contracts. And I think, and accept certain things that they want to work with. There was another project that it didn't happen. But this project was basically to help people with blind people with credit cards, so having Braille on the credit cards. And I thought that was just absolutely amazing, but we didn't get to do it just because of the nature of the game. Sometimes projects happen, and sometimes they don't because of budgets or decisions that are further up. The decision makers decide not to do the project. So there are times that you can choose, but then you just don't get paid.
Yeah.
So whether you want the lights on, I suppose. that.
Yeah, there's nobody's putting a gun against your head, going, "You've got to do this." So, it's just it is what it is, because most of the time you're a freelancer, so you get the jobs in you're asked to do it, and I guess that's also quite a good thing about being a freelancer. You can choose, and why not? If you don't feel happy about it, just don't do it and move on. There will be other work. I'm always confident that there's work out there. I have to be confident.
So if we were to look, Nathan, at the difference between a traditional kind of advert you might see on television, right? That which classically was always, it was just slow. Loads of people working really slowly to produce a few absolutely beautiful money shots that end up in the ad that you see on television. Kind of, how is that different from the kind of ads that you'll be working on?
Can you repeat that question? Because I don't understand the when you said slow, people working slow. What do you mean by that?
I mean, they're rubbish.
So the traditional model, Nathan, for an ad on television, right, is that you've got quite a lot of people, a ton of people working with let's say to take 10 days to make a 10, 15 second commercial where I remember hearing a story once by a guy who directed commercials. They wanted one shot of someone, sitting on a sand dune. And I mean, he talked about how they took the crew into the desert, they took them up their sand dune, and they had to shoot at magic hour, which is the kind of dusk time. And eventually they literally rolled camera for 15 seconds. And you were talking about 48 people working for a day to get that 8 seconds of footage. And they were really expensive because there were huge budgets for those sort of traditional adverts you might see on television. How is kind of that model different from what I understand to be much more kind of low budget, dynamic, quicker approach of producing this kind of viral content that you work?
Well, I always say there's good and bad things with everything. I think the good thing about working quick, fast, and kind of having 2 days, 3 days to do something is that you have a creative freedom to kind of make decisions and to move on, right? So you go, okay, we're going to use this shirt, we're going to film that, and we're going to put the camera over there, and the person's going to come in, and we're going to film them saying a specific line at a red car, whatever, and you kind of choose the car very quickly, and so on, and you shoot it and you move on. As to the bigger brands, there's about 40 different people that's going to go through that, and there's a think tank. This think tank, yes, it is slower, but the think tank really, really goes into sort of a microscopic sort of decision making of the color red. What type of red there is? Is it going to be rose red? Is it going to be blood red? Is it going to be, and then goes to the clothing as well, and everything is very specific and discussed to a very, very to a minute detail, which in a way I know it can dry out the creativity, but in another sense, you can see that the bigger brands, they make really, for me, they make creative stuff that are being thought of, and it passes through so many different people that it has to be good. There's no other way. And you have
representatives on set with you from the brand.
Yeah, so you have clients, you have your clients, which could be the brand, and then you have your creatives, and also your clients could be from all over the world. So you could have New York brand, then you can have New York, Paris, Singapore. You could have those 5, 6, maybe sometimes 10 different clients who represent one brand. Then you have your creatives.
But are they physically there on set with you, or are they joining on Zoom?
Yeah, so they could be on set, or they could be on Zoom. Nowadays it's on Zoom, so they will be on Zoom, and I will have four headphones. So I'll have one for the client, one for the creatives, and one. Yeah, it's just how it goes, and so you have many sort of communications of contact, and you kind of have to. You have to kind of coordinate and delegate that process from them trying to feed that information to you, to the crew, as to what they want, and also you have to also bring your part, your 2 cents to the table as well. So
that's really tough, isn't it? I remember there's a story. I'll tell you a little anecdote that I heard, and see if you've had an experience like this. So a guy I knew had an advertising agency, and he told me about a cereal advert that they were doing, and they had a representative from the cereal brand right on set, and they're watching the actor eat this cereal, and the director goes, "Great, fantastic," and the representative comes up to him and says, "Listen, I'm really sorry, but that's just not funny enough." And the director says, "But he's eating cereal. I mean, it's not that funny." And the brand representative said, "No, we want this to be quite funny." So he's like, "Okay." So he goes to the actor and he says, "Right, we need this to be funnier." So the actor tries to eat cereal funny, which is kind of hard to do. Try it yourself. I mean, it's really hard to do. Yeah. And nobody's laughing, and it's just feeling terrible. And so he eventually decided, the director, there was only one way to do this. So he goes around to the crew and he says to all the crew, after the actor takes this next bite of cereal, everyone laugh. And so basically the actor, they go, and action, and the actor takes a bite of cereal, does a big smile, and the crew physically go, ha 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 ha. At which point the representative on set comes up to the director, pats him on the back and goes, "That was great. I loved it. So funny."
Utilizing sort of crowd mentality there as well, to sort of like hoodwink them into thinking, "Oh man, yeah, that was actually sort of very funny," right?
Yeah. So have you had experiences a bit like that?
Yeah, I've many, many. The thing, like there is a way of me being sort of. I could go the negative way of talking about it, and I get what that guy's saying, but on the other side of things, I'm always what I try to do is, when I'm working with clients and finances or investors, shareholders, all of these, I try to put myself in their shoes to a certain extent, not completely, but like how, what do they want to achieve and why do they want to achieve it? So you could bring it, you could take the analogy of having somebody bring up a fridge with 4 people, bring this fridge up 4 floors, and when it gets there, you go, "Oh my goodness, now guys, that fridge is not working." When you look at it, if you look at it from their point of view, and it doesn't fit, that fridge doesn't fit for some reason, we look at the effort that we've done, but we're not looking at the full picture. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I had it many a time where people were telling me to do certain things where sometimes I didn't want to do, but they have their own agenda that they have discussed, and they probably haven't communicated that with us, and that just happens because advertising, it's a quick game, look at now we have, as you mentioned, we have Ukraine being invaded. There might be a campaign tomorrow, an ad agency, a brand might go, "Hey, we actually need to bring this out." Then basically you need to be ready. You need, as a director, as a creative, you need to be out there. But there's a lot of other information that hasn't been fed to us. So there will be a lot of changes. There will be a lot of like, "Oh, you're gonna have to bring that laugh in." And for us at the moment, we go, it's not important to us right now, but they might have spoken about that in the past.
Yeah. And break this down for us. So if I was, I'm a young person, I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking, I could get into doing that. That sounds really fun. I'd love to make, viral content and viral ads for YouTube and social media and stuff. So give us a breakdown, if you like, of the nuts and bolts. So like, how does a project start? So you obviously work for a company who gets a brief from a particular client, but talk us through from that. So what do you get? You get a little paragraph description. Are you creating the content completely yourself? How long, walk us through the lifestyle of the life of a project.
Yeah, so I mean, it starts in various ways. I think the general overview is that a company wants they want a campaign, and then they approach a company, an agency, and so on. And then this agency either has creative writers, and these are the writers are the creatives. They are we call them the creatives. So they will. And other creators will then pitch content or pitch scripts to the brand, and then the brand will then choose whichever creatives.
And so when we say script, we're probably talking about, I mean, because these things are pretty short, right? So I mean, a script might look like a paragraph of text, or is it a one-page document?
It could be, it could definitely, exactly, a one-page document. But that document then expands to being almost like a book, because it's like what are the colors, shot lists, what are the actors, how the actors look, what props, where we're going to be filming, how the camera is going to be moving. All of this, the creatives would have had. And one of the, they are almost, the creatives are almost the superstars of the advertising world. They walk in like Ronaldo. The guys. I just interviewed the guys who created. So for the agency that I work for, they created the Just Eat Snoop Dogg ad. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to mention all these, but those
ads are great.
Yeah, so I know these guys. They really cool guys. These two of them, and they are the superstars, man. They come in, and they are and they created this thing, and then they went off to LA and they filmed it with Snoop and so on. So so it starts off with the brand having a bit of a brief, the creatives pitch it, then the brand chooses the creatives, then the creators then build that story, then the production company comes in, then they choose the producers, then the producers
and that's you, right?
Yeah, so then the producers with the creatives then choose the director. So that could possibly be myself, or they'll be like, we need another director. Nathan is not experienced enough. And then they go with another director, or they go, okay, let's go with Nathan. And then we start building that, and then we go off and we take the budget, we work out the budget, and of course then we go in create this piece. And then of course we add deadlines and deadlines for the client, deadlines for releasing, even if it's television or if it's social, online content, what viral, as you mentioned. We have deadlines for those as well. So it'll come out, and then we also have cut downs. So we'll make one big piece of content, so that'll be like maybe 30 seconds long, and then it'll be cut down from like 20 seconds or 15 seconds, 12 seconds, 6 seconds. And so you have your editors all waiting for that, and you have your sound designers and your graders and your motion graphics, and so there's a whole diary of things going on, and you constantly kind of like moving things along and making sure that everything is going in order and you're not going over budget, because every day you go over, imagine how many people has to be paid if you miss one day or if you go over a day. So everything is done very meticulously.
In today's sort of COVID world, are you having to line up backup people at all? Do you know what I mean? Like, in case someone tested positive and then suddenly couldn't be on set, do you have like just a list of people that you go to when you've suddenly lost, your either your sound recorders or your DOP last minute, or do you actually have people on standby? Like,
I mean, those are kind of like quite normalities now. You have a team A, team B, and then a soft team C. It's just how it is. And then, but also we have, because of the scale that we're working on, there's certain IPG or advertising.
IPG.
Well, it's basically union laws and all of sort of that sort of
fun stuff.
Red tape that you've got to abide by, rates, what content you can use, even if you do a screen grab of something, or you take an image from somewhere from somebody that has to be passed to this body, and then that body has to say, yeah, you can use that because of certain rights and so on. So there's a lot going on.
And what might be the timescale, Nathan, but in a project? So by the time you're brought on, and let's say you're producing, this 30 seconds of content in the end. How long might it take you to actually, from sort of when you're brought on to final delivery of that 30 seconds of content? What sort of timescale we're looking at?
So I could come on in two capacities. So one is the either director or producer. As a producer, I come on either, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks before the project, before production starts. So that would be 4 weeks of pre-production, and then a week of production, and then another 4 weeks of post-production.
So it could be a week of production for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Wow.
It really depends. It depends on the project, depends on the budget, depends on pickups, depends on many things. As a director, there's a possibility that you could come on 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before, and then you stay on 2 weeks after. So the production, of course, one week, and then 2 weeks after, 1 week after, just to kind of get the post-production team going. Once that happens, there's a post-producer, they take that on. And my job could also evolve from producer to post-producer. So I could be a post-producer as well, and they go, okay, Nathan, can you post-produce? So then I'm post-producing and I'm producing. And when I'm producing, I'm cleaning up all the stuff. So I'm paying people, invoicing, making sure that the budgets are all sort of, in line, that we haven't lost money in stuff, chasing up on people or not, making sure that the contracts are signed, and loads of contract stuff and rights and all of that stuff. So you're making sure all of that stuff is sort of going. Yeah.
Sounds quite heavy. So with before we sort of jump back and learn a little bit about you and sort of how you started off creatively, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got into this world, because earlier when you were talking about the pitch for projects and certain directors being attached, you got some who are mega stars and some companies might be like, oh no, we want someone more experienced. Who's going to go for someone that hasn't done a single advert yet? So how do you do an advert when you haven't done an advert? It feels like one of those catch it.
Yeah. I guess it's not as difficult as it sounds. Basically, it goes back to what James has said earlier on, is that, what about that smaller production where you're doing 1 or 2 days of shoot, or 1 day of shoot, and the client's only got like a small budget. From those, the creatives and the production team, they look at the talent that you possibly have and can bring to the table. We worked with Instagrammers. I mean, one of the projects that I worked on, the guy was an Instagrammer. He was shooting with like 360-degree stuff, and we put him onto a massive project. And prior to that, he didn't do, he hadn't done big things, but they saw the talent within him. They saw what he could possibly. And when he came on set, he was kind of like with his own stuff, and we were like, "No, mate, we're doing it for you. You don't need to do anything. Actually, you just tell us what to do." And he was like so hands-on. And he's talented. He's a very talented director. So it does start off with doing things at home. I started off like that. I started off with kind of like making things on my mobile phone. When I was a kid, I would write little adverts.
Secondary school, or like was it younger than that? Like when did
primary? I think primary school. I loved. I mean, my career merges and jumps from narrative into adverts. I know this might sound very, very strange, but as a 12-year-old kid, when the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out, I couldn't afford to go to the cinema. My dad was like, not that my dad wouldn't want us to go, but he'd be like, yeah, we'll see it in 2 months' time. Don't worry, you. And I remember get on VHS or whatever, and I wrote because I was so into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I really wanted to watch this, the cinema version. So what I did was I wrote the first scene, for me, what the first scene would be, and I wrote the scientists come in, and I had the scientists there, and then he with the stuff in his lab, and then he had turtles, and then there was a robbery, and they broke in, and then all this sort of liquid fell into the bowls of the turtles, and then into the sewer and all that, and that's what I drew as a kid. And when I went to the cinema to watch it, that scene was there.
No way.
I won't lie to you. It was there. I sat there as a 12-year-old boy, and I went, oh my goodness!
Your dad sold it secretly. Had your dad taken your sort of your plans? And
he probably did. He didn't share. He didn't share the money with me though.
Yeah. Dad, why are we moving into a bigger house? Oh, don't you worry about that, son.
But I mean, just like I think I don't know. I think it starts with just imagination. Like just go off and just do things. Like get a piece like a pen and paper and just write things and just let your mind go with it. I mean,
I suppose it's almost like focusing more on what you want to do, especially in that period, rather than what you feel like you should be creating, perhaps. Because there's a whole world of doing things, particularly for audiences or for clients, on the horizon. When you're young, when you're feeling creative, you've got to sort of go wherever that goes. And if it looks like sort of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan fiction, then that's where you take it, maybe.
And
I suppose I want to just jump in before we hear about, hopefully, a bit about you as a teenager, maybe, Nathan, you can tell us. But, if you was to say what personality things or what are the skills that you need to succeed in the job that you do? If I was a young person, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, what am I good at that might mean that this is the world for me? What would you say those things are?
I guess if wanting to kind of make something that is going to impact or tell a story visually affects you, like if you're watching a commercial, or if that really resonates or talks to you, or film, and you're like, oh man, I want to make something, create something similar. I think maybe that's the way to. Then maybe that you've got a little bit of the bite. I don't know what the answer could possibly be, but I love watching films, and I love watching films that I would love to make. I love that. I love sitting into the cinema in the cinema and going, wow, man, I want to make something like this. And I think that's about it, really. And then I think if you allow that feeling to take you, you could go off and make a commercial or film or whatever. You could play cricket. It doesn't really matter. Exactly. If you watch cricket and you go, I'm really passionate. Oh my goodness, you can go off and. It just takes you to go to the next step and the next step and next step. And I think it starts there. But also, there's also those who have not tried it and might go, oh, I don't know if that's for me. I don't feel the bite. Maybe if you try one or two, or being part of a little production with your friends and so on, maybe that could also, not conjure up, but could sort of light up some interest. I don't know. I mean, I have met, like, working with the Wi-Fi, I have met some young people who said, I never thought that filmmaking would be so joyful, and so enjoyable until after they've made it, because they were kind of daunted by the idea of all this information, the lighting, the cameras, the sound, and all of that stuff. And then once they sort of got into making it with their own little cameras and so on, and they played it back to their mums and dads, they were like, oh my goodness, I really love doing this and I want to do another one. So I don't know what the answer would be, but I guess, just either try it and I think just listen to your gut instinct, really.
Did you have any kind of training or like formal training going, like after you sort of, you've been creative, you have that passion, you're seeing films in the cinema that you're like, wow, I wish I made that or something like that, which I feel like, that's a really good telling point. If this is something maybe you want to do you get that feeling when a film finishes? How did you nurture that,
So the thing is, I came late to the game. I've always wanted to study film. And the problem with South Africa back in the day, apartheid, all of that boring stuff, is that it didn't give me the chance to actually make any films till I was probably 28. But during that time, I was analyzing films. I won't lie to you. I have books and books of analyzing films. I still have those books, actually. I brought it down here. I've been watching films. I've written films. I've made. I try to like create little storyboards, music videos. I used to listen to music and draw, like, what that music video would be. And I had loads of ideas and so on. And I mean, I have a very weird start to my film career. And then I applied to the African Film School, which I kind of got in, but I didn't have the money for. And I remember this guy saying to me, here's a book of like different funding bodies that you could write to. And I kind of wrote to them. I got rejected by British Council, like, and that was in South Africa. And then my dad was like, my dad was like, you should get, what you should get? You should get a what do you call, like a station wagon. Because runners, on film sets, they have runners and these station wagons, and you can drive around. So I saved up. I was 18, 19, saved up for a station wagon, got a station wagon, and then I got, for 3 years, every summer during the season, I would apply to all these production companies and got rejected by every production company. And decided I'm going to do
with the station wagon.
Even with the station wagon, man. And I had the CV, and I promise you, and basically I went to South Africa. The week I arrived, I went to the UK, London. The week I arrived, this guy called Alec Christie, he hired me as a runner for a feature film, and I was so over the moon. I was like, oh my God, I dropped everything, to work as a runner on this film set. And the funny thing is, like, years later, this guy is now my exec producer at the company that I work for now.
Wow.
And that was 15 years ago. So
wow. That's such a great story. So you got into a kind of late, in your late 20s in terms of really jumping in, but actually you were doing stuff as a teen that was kind of creative. Could you just talk to us a little bit about that? Like, how, looking back now to your teenage self, like, kind of, what do you think you were doing then that was scratching the itch, if you like, of what you were later to do?
Yeah, I mean, I would approach bands and musicians and say, look, I'd make a music video for you. And I'd never made a music video in my life. And
make it, baby.
most of them rejected me until this one guy actually said to me, "Okay, cool, let's do it." And we did it. It was a rap video, but I never got to see the footage. I never got to see the final video. But I think I don't know if I'd do things differently, because I think everything that I've done has gotten to where I am now. I think, the only thing that I would say to myself is just keep on persisting. There's a say that Denzel Washington says, is an interesting one. He says, if you sit by the barbershop long enough, you'll get a haircut.
I haven't heard that. That's really good.
That's great advice.
And that's kind of me. And I came to the game late, and even now, I'm in my 40s, and I'm only now recently started to do things in the advert world or the commercial world and so on. It's not, it is difficult. It has been, but it's also a lot of fun. And if you want a career that's going to be a lot of fun and high highs and sometimes low lows, they are going to be those, but you're definitely going to be traveling. You're going to be meeting so many different people. You're going to be rubbing shoulders sometimes with famous people and sometimes not, and sometimes your best jobs could be the smallest jobs. It's I wouldn't change this for the world. I love filmmaking, and I hope I'm pushing for my feature film, and I hope that'll be the next phase of this career, this strange career that I have, and we'll just see. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but it's not going to stop me from not wanting to or not pushing what I want to do. But yeah, that's me.
Any final words of advice you'd give your childhood self?
Oh, to my childhood self.
You're sitting there, you're doing some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle writing. What do you say? In a sentence.
Yeah, I think take your time with. So take your time. Well, whatever advice you get, take your time to kind of soak it in, maybe play around with it, and see how things turn out. I think that's it, really.
We say at Young Film, we often say at Young Film Academy, kind of find a way, and I think that's sort of what you're saying, is that there's no one route into this industry. You've just got to sit by the barbershop for long enough. You've got to do, whatever is your version of that, and find a way. And I think you've really inspiringly kind of shown us your journey, and thank you so much for sharing that.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming on the podcast.
No, it's a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
And we're rolling. That was super cool. I what was really cool is sort of hearing, we get a lot of British guests on this show, and hearing about people's experiences in other countries as well. I just thought that was really cool, right?
Yeah, and I think that Nathan's a really special guy, and he's got such an amazing attitude. And what was kind of cool is listening to his, he grew up in South Africa, as he mentioned, and at the time of apartheid, which for a lot of young listeners may not mean a lot. So apartheid was essentially the segregation of white people from non-white people, and all of the laws that were enshrined in that government to make it a very difficult world to live in if you weren't white. And, that obviously impacted Nathan. And so he was, coming to it later on. And I'm sort of reminded, actually, there was so many. There was a Young Film Academy at the summer camp a couple of years ago. We had a young man arrived from Saudi Arabia, and he checked in, and his dad was with him, and they were super excited, and as everyone is when they're at summer camp. But he was particularly so. And I remember saying, sort of,
and me, him and me, so excited.
Him and you, and he said, "Well, we have no cinemas in Saudi Arabia." And at the time, there were none. I think there are now. A couple of years later, there are some, but at the time. So I think he said that they had the biggest YouTube viewership per capita in terms of the number of stuff that people watch on YouTube, because there was nowhere else for them to go. And so many of those things that we take for granted, and are, growing up, you might take for granted. You realise that is a privilege, that we had so many opportunities that Nathan in this case didn't have, but then made up for later, which was, just really interesting to hear that, and to hear that he was going around to his mates and doing the music video thing, which actually a lot of people have done, right? Is that it's a way in, is to say that I'm interested in creating content of some sort with cameras and sound. What's the first thing you can do? That's an ad where you go to your mates, you've got a band, and you say, hey guys, you want to do a video? And in fact, Dan, I think this is something. Go on.
There is a very similar story. Yeah. Very similar story. I mean, it's essentially, it's all of the things you were just describing, with a bonus level of virality as well. That being an extended version of the word, viral. But I went round. I got some mates over that were in a band when I was in secondary school, and they were looking for a music video. I was 15, maybe 14. I don't know. Yeah, one of those ages. And I was already into film. I'd been making films for a long time. And I was like, yeah, I can do a music video for you. And I had a dried out pond in my parents' garden, growing up in the countryside. And I was like, yeah, it's dried out, so we can just set up the band in there, and I'll just film you guys, and it'll be sick. And in fairness, it was sick. It was really cool. I hadn't shot a music video before ever, but I knew how they should look. We knew how it wanted to feel. We knew the sort of color. It was going to be very moody and blue and ominous. And we just filmed them and put it on YouTube. Sort of, friends watched it, sort of got a few hundred views. Maybe we sort of closed in on 1,000, because there's quite a nice little rock scene in near Colchester, for anyone that knows, sort of southeast. And then just very quickly, I think it was over the course of a week, it suddenly then went to 20,000, then 40,000. Then it was very quickly 100,000, 300,000, and it's literally boomed all the way up to 1 million views, or close to 1 million views.
It's just amazing. And I've actually seen this video, and this is something I didn't know about, Dan, until a few months ago. And when we were discussing things to talk about on the podcast, and we talked about views, and I think we'll do an episode completely on this kind of topic and how these metrics work. And you were saying that you'd had a video with over 1 million views. I was like, what? And the fact you made this at 15, I've actually seen it. What is the name of this, so we can give it some more views from our listeners?
Yeah. It's Raise These Sails. John Reese became one of them. John Reese is a character in 30 Days of Night, I believe, and he becomes a vampire at some point in the film. That's a spoiler. I'm very sorry. And they wrote a song called John Reese Becomes One of Them. So if you just type in Raise These Sails on YouTube, it'll be the first result. You'll see it.
Because it's got millions and millions of views. So there you go. So Dan, very, very... And on this topic, what do you think made that viral? I mean, people were obviously watching that particular video, which I've watched. It's kind of a heavy metal band of teens thrashing guitars in a garden. And you've done a great job. I mean, bearing in mind, in 15, it's amazing. But it is... not necessarily, you don't immediately think, people would watch this and share it. So what do you think drove that, the success, the viral quality of that?
So I think there's definitely a few things. You definitely need to tick certain boxes. The thumbnail was sick, right? The thumbnail looked super dope. It, alongside all the other bands of that genre, even the big bands in that genre, it looked like it belonged as part of them. So the moment it could get into the recommended videos on the side of YouTube, when you're watching a video and you see all the ones down the side, the moment it could get there, it looked like it deserved to be there, and maybe people would want to click on it. So I think you need to sort of make sure all those things, there's nothing in your way of going viral by not having a good enough thumbnail, not having a good enough title. The title was fine. It's a music video. So the fact it said music video in there, people know what they're clicking on. Once those things are out of the way, I think there then has to be an element of it's quite good. I'm not saying my video was super good, but I think the song is cool. Maybe not your type of music, James, and actually, to be honest, not really something I listen to particularly very often, but it's a really cool song in that genre. The band's sick. So I think it needs to be shareable. It needs to be enjoyable. And if it is enjoyable and shareable, then people watch a lot of the video. And if people watch a lot of a video, then it's more likely to end up on those recommendations on the site.
The algorithm.
So and those algorithms, people try and game them as much as you want, but ultimately, if the content's good, it should get up there. Sometimes you need a helping start. It helped. I already had subscribers, so and the band already had a fan base to get it to that first 1,000 views. So you need people to actually go on there initially. That's where you've got to do a bit of the work, and hopefully the system will take you the rest of the way.
What's kind of interesting is that you were doing Age 15, kind of what Nathan was describing, with big teams of people who are trying to right? Because everyone sits down and goes, okay, how can we make this advert for whatever product you're doing? It needs to be something that people are going to pass on. They're going to actually share their friends, say, hey, watch this. There's loads of people trying to achieve what you kind of did without even knowing it when you were 15. But I found that really interesting about what Nathan was saying, that sense that actually, and I think I was wrong about this. My impression was slightly that the traditional adverts, that you might see on TV, lots of people, takes forever, huge budgets, one shot a day, all that stuff. And actually what Nathan was describing is not a million miles away from that. And in fact, he's saying that in the modern day, this sense of he was having sort of 40 people on a Zoom on set in his ear.
I thought that was mental.
From all over the world, because you've got the client, you've got people from your own agency, you've got people from the client agency in different countries, and everyone's trying to see down the viewfinder of what you're shooting, and they're all trying to filter in. They say he's got 4 pairs of headphones on, and I'm like, what a nightmare. And actually, what a skill for a director to be able to manage all that. I thought it was
100%. And it's sort of hearing how many people are involved in that process at every step. It reminds me of something I always think about, which is, when you see a bad advert on TV, or you think one that you're like, oh man, that was really awkward, or pants. Not only did someone come up with that idea, someone said yes. And not only did someone say yes, a lot of people said yes. A lot of people thought that was a good idea, which is why sort of like bad stuff on TV is miraculous. Don't get me wrong, it's really hard to come up with good stuff, but that's why most things are at least effective or functional or purposeful, even if they don't connect to you. And a lot of the time, it's maybe because it's a product that you're already completely not interested in, so it's unlikely to turn you around, upside down, shake you all about. But
yeah, I agree, and that Nathan could take that idea of just storytelling in general. Like, he started off making, narrative films, shorts and all that stuff, and then found his way into this. But I think he interpreted creativity in a really general way. It's like, you just go out there and you want to tell stories, or you want to make movies, and okay, you want now to make a story about this product, but it's all coming from the same DNA. And so I think that which we've tried to do on this podcast for young people is to sort of open their eyes that it's not just about directing feature films for television or for the cinema, or, there's a million roles within those. But even outside of that, there's so many other things you can get into.
Absolutely. And, this is something that Nathan clearly enjoys, but Nathan's also working on a feature, right? He's worked on loads of shorts. It's about sort of finding those, it's almost like a financial revenue of like, oh, I do this and I enjoy it and I get to be creative for my job. And that is so sick. Whilst also working on passion projects. I think that's amazing. And if you can find that, that's like a holy grail. And if you can trust the process as well, you look at, as we were saying earlier, how long it took for Nathan's to start. And he still ended up in the position he's in, and he still followed that, and he's still excited about the things he's working on. Yeah, I think that is almost like,
and I think it's really good at that sense of he just loves what he does. And even when I told him that story of the anecdote that I'd heard about the client, who was difficult on set and everyone just laughed and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, you could look down that negatively, and I could tell you a million negative stories about sort of, a client being tricky, but actually, that's kind of irrelevant. It's actually the joy of being there and doing it and being in that environment. And if you feed off that, and if there's a young person listening and goes, I would love to be in that environment, then this is just, you're going to have a nice life, because you're going to enjoy it. And also, I suppose, how different it all is. I mean, he does loads of different projects, and he was saying each one's about a month. So, in a year, you're doing 12 completely different things, totally unrelated. And if you like variation,
Yeah. And you just got to pinch yourself sometimes. Like, when I've been paid to direct stuff, it's magical. You're like, someone is paying me to do the thing I love to do. And I think that as an aspiration point for our listeners, I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Super cool.
This is really cool.
Just before we wrap up though, James, do we have any questions coming in from people?
We do. We've got a question from Dawn, who is 16 and from Leeds.
Hi,
and
Dawn.
She's written in on this topic and said, I've made 6 videos and put them all up on YouTube, and none of them have gone viral yet. How worried should I be?
Very worried, Dawn.
Worried.
Worry lots. I mean, don't be worried at all. There's so many factors that could be involved. There is an element of chance, I think, in all of it. There is an element of luck. There are so many creators where once they have a successful hit video, all the rest of their videos fly up. And they really wouldn't fly up if they were rubbish. Like, I want to say fly up, I mean, like, really go viral as well. And it's like an accumulative, like, effect. So your videos may well be at a standard, but it just hasn't happened to that one yet, I would say.
And let's be clear, like, when you start off, you're making stuff, you're putting it up not because you want it to go viral, but because you want to show your friends and you want to show your teachers or something like that. You know, that's great. And, you know, going viral isn't always a measure of genuine success in the craft. I mean, you know, a lot of videos that go viral is because a cat jumped off a thing and did something funny, or, you know, someone bit someone's thumb. I mean, these are not great works of art. They are just amusing. And
Charlie Bit My Finger is a work of art, James.
Charlie Bit My Finger, yeah. Charlie Bit My Finger. But, you know, so no, do not worry, Dawn. That is not a measure. You shouldn't be checking on your YouTube views and thinking this is a failure because of the number. Look at what you've done. Look at the thing you've actually made. That is the measure of success, not the views.
100%. And I think that is so important. It's like, if you are judging your abilities by metrics, that is only actually a tool that one can use to beat themselves up, because most of pretty much all successful content creators are doing it because they love that kind of content. If you are chasing views, I promise you the last thing you want, Dawn, is to have a successful video of something you didn't even enjoy making. You hate it. The only reason you made it was to get it to go viral. And now what? Well, you're going to have to do like 100 of them. You're going to have to do one of those every week for the rest of your life. You hated it, Dawn. That's very silly behavior. You know, you've got to do the content you love. You've got to share the stories you do, because if you don't love that content, someone else will enjoy making it and probably do a better job of it. That's why with art and creative stuff, I feel like you've got to let that passion direct you a little bit.
There's a quote. I can't remember which artist said it. They said, "Make art, and whilst other people are working out whether they like it, make more art." So just don't worry about it. Just crack on, do more.
Keep going. But your thumbnails might be rubbish though, Dawn, but otherwise carry on. I'm joking. Anyway, thank you so much, guys. This has been an absolute blast. It's been a pleasure chatting with Nathan, and a pleasure spending time with you as always, James. So
real joy, Dan, and thanks for having me.
Excellent. Right, we'll see you guys next time on the Young Film Academy podcast. Take care.